Welcome to our community church, Unitarian Universalist. I'm your worship associate, Jim O'Neill, and it's a delight to be with you on this beautiful, sunny, brisk morning. We're delighted also for those who join us virtually. For those new to our community, you might ask who we are as Community Church. We are an inclusive, progressive, and open-minded religious community. We welcome all who are in a search for spiritual truth and meaning. Ours is a faith in action as we do the work of social justice and elevate compassion in our quest to live ethically, recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every being. We begin with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge and pay tribute to the original inhabitants of this land. The city of New Orleans is a continuation of an indigenous trade hub on the Mississippi River, known for thousands of years as Bobancha. Tribes that have lived on this land include the Caddo, the Natchez, the Choctaw, the Chitimacha, Homa, the Tunica, Biloxi, Atacapapa, Isha, among others. We recognize that as a result of broken treaties and involuntary removals, Native Americans were often forced from their lands. We remember and pay respect to the community impacted by these actions. Native peoples have lived on this land since time immemorial, and the resilient voices of Native Americans remain an inseparable part of our local culture. With gratitude and honor, we acknowledge the indigenous nations that have lived and continue to thrive here. I saw in the paper today the costumes of Native Americans participating in celebrations today. So please look to your weekly email for announcements. We begin, though, with an announcement from our board president, Laura Miller.
Thank you, Jim. Good morning, everybody. This past week, the board approved the appointment of a special committee to figure out exactly how we want to do signage to recognize naming the sanctuary the Avis Sanctuary. I was looking specifically for expertise in the following areas: buildings, design, art, budget and finance, institutional memory, and personal acquaintance with Avis. I have recruited the following people to be on the committee, and they collectively fulfill all of those areas of expertise. Rebecca Broom, Bill Fernandez, Kathy Larimer, Cynthia Ramirez, and I have also reached out to Reverend Jim Vanderweel and Donna Merrifield to ask them if they had any specific knowledge that would be useful for us to know as we proceed with this. However, I want to say that I am asking all of you to let me know if you have any specific ideas. I want to entertain all ideas, and I want the committee to use their expertise to narrow things down to figure out exactly what we want to end up doing. So over the next couple of weeks, if you've got an idea for how we, want to pursue this, please let me know either in person or text or email, whatever's convenient for you. But I'm encouraging all ideas to come in. And I'm happy to say I've already got several ideas, so we're off to a good start. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Laura. We're delighted today that our pastor, Stacey Mitchell, will be in the pulpit addressing us on the topic of loving earth, contemplations on spring equinox. She will now have announcements for us, followed by the opening words.
I have a couple announcements I wanted to share. For anyone who is interested in going to a dynamic activist training on the University of New Orleans campus, and the Social Justice Ministry Committee will pay for any associated fee. That is happening on April 1st, and our own Alicia is very involved in this, and it's a great opportunity for anyone that wants to connect with other activists doing amazing work here in the city of New Orleans. So reach out to me, or if you know anyone on the Social Justice Ministry Committee, reach out to them, and we would be really happy if you wanted to go to this training on April 1st. It's a Saturday. The other announcement I have is we are a congregation that believes in the democracy action of voting, and we have an election coming up March 25th right here in the city of New Orleans. And some very interesting races I've personally found as I've been looking at the candidates running. So citywide, we have 3 people running for civil district court. We also have 3 people running for criminal district court. And if you live in District 93, as I do, there is a House representative race, 2 people running. So this, the primary for these races was in February, and this on March 25th is the deciding races for these 3 races. So I encourage you all, if you have not done early voting, to research what candidate you might want to vote for and go to the polls on Saturday, March 25th, this upcoming Saturday. So those are my announcements. And our opening words today are from Chief Crowfoot from the Blackfoot tribe. His words are, "What is life? It is the flash of a firefly in the night. It is the breath of a buffalo in the winter time. It is the little shadow which runs across the grass and loses itself in the sunset." These were known as his last words.
It is Community Church's custom to light a candle invoking hope and eternal truth to our worship. Please join us in singing, "We Light This Flame." I will now light an additional candle honoring Avis Moore and the dedication of this sanctuary as the Avis Sanctuary. We will now have our time for all ages from our Religious Education Director, Cynthia Ramirez.
Look who's coming. I got 2 of them. Good morning, everyone. Yay, they're excited. I'm excited too. I got a good story for you. I know, I'm excited too. I know, my goodness, so much happening here. Hello, hello. I got a story for you guys today. This is a Greek story, it's a Greek myth, and it's about a young girl named Clytie. In ancient Greece, the god of the sun was named Apollo. Every day, he drove his horses in his sun chariot across the sky. As he drove, he shone very brightly because he didn't have anyone on earth. He shone very brightly because they're distracting me. Bright because he didn't want anyone on earth to look up at him. At that time, there lived a girl named Clytie. She was tall and with big brown eyes and golden hair. Clytie was very curious about this bright light in the sky, and no one was supposed to look at it. One morning, Clytie was out on the garden near her house, and she saw that the sky was full of clouds and thought, if I were to look at Apollo today, the clouds would be like a curtain so that he wouldn't see me. Clytie looked up, and there, between the clouds, she caught a glimpse of Apollo in his chariot. It was an amazing sight that Clytie could not look away. Her eyes began to follow his path, and she slowly turned her head to watch him as he moved across the sky. After this, Clytie spent her days out in the garden trying to catch another glimpse of him. Clytie's parents warned her that Apollo would grow angry if he saw her staring at him. But Clytie could not help herself. Now that she had seen Apollo, she could think of nothing else. But one day, Apollo happened to look down and saw Clytie staring up at him, and he was furious. He drew rein on his horses and looked down into Clytie's eyes. Just then, a strange thing happened. Clytie's big brown eyes grew larger and larger until it seemed as if she had one huge brown eye which covered her whole face. Her golden hair stood straight out in a circle around her eye. Her body became a tall green stalk, and Clytie's toes turned into roots which sank into the ground. When Clytie's mother called her in for lunch, there was no answer. When she went outside to look for her daughter, all she found was a tall, beautiful flower. Apollo had changed Clytie into the first sunflower. And to this day, if you notice a field of sunflowers, you will see they stand tall and stiff. And just as Clytie did long ago, their huge brown eyes turn to follow the path of the sun from morning until night. The end. Gotta love those Greeks, right? Will y'all help me and sing out the children to Ari? Thanks.
Everywhere you may go. I see a sunflower, I will think of that wonderful story. Now is our time for sacred joys and sorrows. If you are online, please write your joys and sorrows in the comments or chat box to be read aloud after the musical interlude. If you are here and wish to share at the pulpit, please come forward after the music, or fill out a card here that will be read after our musical interlude. Thank you. From the Le Bons, our granddaughter, Adeline, was chosen lead in the play Alice in Wonderland at her school. What a joy. Liz is sending healing prayers to my daughter Cindy, who is recovering from painful oral surgery. If you are watching, Cindy, Mom says, I love you and miss you. Are there any other that need to be shared? Please, Marilyn.
Just wanted to share a joy that we had a wonderful time last night at Dinners for Six. If you didn't come, you missed a fun event. We had really good conversation and of course delicious food as usual. So anytime you want to join us, just let me know. We do our potlucks once a month, and just let me know if you want to be included.
And now we'll light 2 additional candles, one for the joys that are still bubbling up within us, but have not found words, and another for the sorrows too deeply carried right now to be shared, we hold you and your joys and sorrows in our hearts.
I have two readings for you, and we'll also have our hymn between the readings. They're both from Joy Harjo, from the Muskogee Creek Nation and 23rd Poet Laureate of the United States. The first one I'm reading from her is called "For Calling the Spirit from Wandering the Earth in Its Human Feet." Put down that bag of potato chips, that white bread, that bottle of pop. Turn off that cell phone, computer, and remote control. Open the door, then close it behind you. Take a breath offered by friendly winds. They travel the earth, gathering essences of plants to clean. Give back with gratitude. If you sing, it will lift your spirit. Lift to fly to the stars' ears and back. Acknowledge this earth who has cared for you since you were a dream planting itself precisely within your parents' desire. Let your moccasin feet take you to the encampment of the guardians who have known you before time, who will be there after time. They sit before the fire that has been there without time. Let the earth stabilize your post-colonial insecure jitters. Be respectful of small insects, birds, and animal people who accompany you. Ask for their forgiveness for the harm we humans have brought down, due to the harm we humans have brought upon them. Don't worry, the heart knows the way. Though there might be high-rises, interstates, checkpoints, armed soldiers, massacres, wars, and those who will despise you because they despise themselves. The journey might take you a few hours, a day, a year, a few years, 100, or even 1,000, or even more. And so now we will sing our hymn, Rising Green, number 1068.
Praise
second reading I have from you by Joy Harjo is titled Remember. Remember the sky that you were born under. Know each of the stars' stories. Remember the moon, who she is. Remember the sun's birth at dawn. That is the strongest point of time. Remember sundown and the giving away tonight. Remember your birth, how your mother struggled to give you form and breath. You are evidence of her life and her mother's and hers. Remember your father, he is your life also. Remember the earth whose skin you are. Red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth. We are earth. Remember the plants, trees, animal life, who all have their tribes, their families, and their histories too. Talk to them, listen to them. They are alive poems. Remember the wind, remember her voice. She knows the origin of this universe. Remember you are all people and all people are you. Remember you are this universe and this universe is you. Remember all is in motion, is growing, is you. Remember language comes from this. Remember the dance language is, that life is. Remember. So we just sang the hymn Rising Green. Carolyn McDade wrote that, and she says about her hymn, earth shakes out a mantle of green, each blade of grass true to the integrity within, yet together with others is the rise of spring from winter's urging. Our coming is with the grass, the common which persists unexalted, but with the essence of life. Our humanness, our rhythms and dreams, the faith which nurtures our ardent love and hope for life. All this we share with Earth community, of which we are natural and connected beings. So those lyrics include, beating, my heart sounds the measure of old, that of love's eternity. That of love, that of love, that of love's eternity. I feel the tides as they answer the moon, rushing on a far distant sand. Winging my song is the wind of my breast, and my love blows over the land. And my love, and my love, and my love blows over the land. Wondrous our faith settles deep in the earth, rising green to bring a new day. So I was on my Twitter feed not too long ago, and there was a tweet from someone I don't really recall following, but nonetheless, he posted a short video of a bird that I was intrigued to watch. The bird was alive, but moving very little on the streets of Manhattan. He posted to ask what kind of bird it was. Folks responded to what bird they thought this bird might be. He then stated what was meant to be a well-intentioned statement after someone said the bird seemed stunned. Maybe they had flown into a window and trying to recover from the stun. And he said not to worry, he didn't handle the bird. And hopefully the bird would recover on its own. So I think that's a habit that many of us have. We see something really difficult, and we look the other way and hope or pray that things will resolve themselves on their own. We can look outside of the animal and bird world to see this isn't typically the most effective or often compassionate approach. We see racism, bullyism, sexism, and this list could go on. Our voices or actions are important when we witness racist or sexist acts. Well-intended folks don't want to engage where it may seem unnecessary. But in the silence, we see humans subjected to cruelty in our tragic history of humanity. And as Martin Luther King Jr. has said, in the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. So I want to extend this idea of how humans care, support, or witness each other, or not, to all living beings. We also have a history of looking away from how the earth is dying along with her various species. We may know of a species going extinct because we read about it in the New York Times or National Geographic, and we vote for the candidates that might do something about it, which is important. Voting matters, and yet advocacy does too. In regards to humans, I think of the times progressive change was needed and that simple voting wasn't enough. We can look to the suffrage movement, civil rights movements, and the marches that occurred along the side with that, as well as the anti-war marches during the Vietnam War, among other human rights efforts. In regards to beyond the human species, lately we have had climate marches, the climate strike with Greta Thunberg, and the work that many activists do in this world. But we see this isn't enough as our planet continues on its trajectory of dying as well. We need democracy of voting. We need the democracy of equal access to voting. We need democracy of the spirit and actions of equality and equity. We need the democracy of freedom of speech. We need the democracy of freedom for all living beings. We need the democracy of freedom of the press. We need democracy with checks and balances so that people and Earth don't live in a tyranny of fear. We need democracy to thwart nationalism and hatred. So how can we extend the spirit of democracy also to our Earth? An example of how this is being done is there's a movement called right now the rights of nature. The term rights of nature may be new to some. The Global Alliance for the Rights of Nature, GARN for short, states rights of nature is the recognition and honoring that nature has rights. It's the recognition that our ecosystems, including trees, oceans, animals, mountains, have rights just as human beings have rights. Rights of nature is about balancing what is good for human beings against what is good for other species, and what is good for the planet as a world. It is the holistic recognition that all life, all ecosystems, and our planet are deeply intertwined. Rather than treating nature as property under the law, rights of nature acknowledges that nature in all its forms has a right to exist, persist, maintain, and regenerate its vital cycles. And we, the people, have the legal authority and the responsibility to enforce these rights on behalf of ecosystems. For indigenous cultures around the world, recognizing rights of nature is simply what is so and consistent with their traditions of living in harmony with nature. All life, including human life, are deeply connected. Decisions and values are based on what is good for the whole. White women's suffrage took 150 years. Civil rights for all people of color took over 300 years. And we don't have these years to just sit and watch anymore. Whether we're talking about democracy of our communities, in the human world, or our earth as a living ecosystem. We have had Jane Goodall, who shared her love of primates in Africa. We have Lynn Margulis, who's the Nobel Prize winner for the groundbreaking work on bacteria and nature. We have Rachel Carson, who wrote the heartbreaking book, Silent Spring, in the mid-20th century. Vandana Shiva, who advocates for sustainable farming in India and around the world. Marina Silva, who fights for protections of rainforests and indigenous land in Brazil. Greta Thunberg, who works on climate change. These are all activists who deeply care for Earth and all living beings on Earth. What I think all these activists have in common is their acts of love for Earth. They are not silent witnesses thinking the cause is for someone else to take up. That bird that I mentioned didn't seem like it would survive on its own, trying to bury itself in a crevice on the sidewalk on the streets of Manhattan. I suspect the bird would have had a better chance of survival if someone, anyone, would have picked him or her up carefully and took them to a rehabilitation center for birds. This would have required an obvious action of love for the birds and an inconvenience. Securing equality and safety has traditionally never included a sense of convenience. Our seventh principle in Unitarian Universalism has us contemplating our interconnectedness to the world. That is something Unitarian Universalists know well. But our interconnected earth is at a precipitous point, and many of us feel helpless at times. Whether it is volunteering for an animal shelter, working to preserve bird habitat, or participating in a beach cleanup, there are almost endless ways to express our love for the earth and her children in the forms of plants, animals, and birds. There is nothing greater to commit than to love each other and earth. We are of earth ourselves, the water we drink, the bacteria in our bodies, the marrow that grows in our bones from each day of life with the food we digest, beginning with the milk from our human mothers, and the air we breathe, if not polluted, is pure air coming from the skies that integrate with the nutrients of soil and seed, and the sea coming into our nostrils. That beauty of the universe and all that God offers. New Orleans sits near the confluence of the Mississippi River and the bayou, known as Bulbancha from the indigenous language, the place of many tongues. And this was a popular trading spot before colonialism, with many tribes coming to meet and exchange goods with each other. When we hold life in awe, the awe that we can see living here in the beauty of New Orleans. When we see that suffer, it pains us. This is logical, as nature is our siblings, reliant on the same Mother Earth. When a loving relative suffers, we suffer. It is our natural human condition to love what we care about. In order to do our part in caring for the earth with the agencies we have, arguably the most important is our agency to love. Modern biological science is proving that trees talk to one another through the root systems and living systems in the soil that connect those roots. There are other examples of living beings communicating with each other, a form of intelligence that may not be intellectual. There is awe and beauty in these ways of communicating with each other. Octopuses, whales, coyotes, and the list can go on of species having their own unique ways of communicating with each other. But we don't need to wait for the proof of science to know something that we have intuitively known for millennia. We are interconnected, and we always have been from the beginning. Many have studied the brain and mind to see how and where love originates, and we don't need science reports to know of the power and beauty of love, because we love regardless. I think this is where we are at with Earth at the moment. There are enough studies, reports, and assessments to know our Earth is dying. More reports will not prevent this death from happening unless our actions include obvious acts of love, because we care and protect that which we love. If we don't act with love, no report or study will matter much. Studies and reports are helpful to shine light on something that we may have not seen in a certain way before, but if love is not fully incorporated, those reports become somewhat useless to motivate us in what needs to be done for caring for all of life. When we forget or don't behave in a way where we know that we see the interconnectedness of all beings, we then logically lean into a way of acting in ways that benefit our own being with little regard for others. So when Earth dies, we die. Whether we get to an absolute point or incrementally, each pelican, each songbird, each wild fish dying is a slow dying of us. If a beloved pet dies, we feel a bit of death inside us. When we feel the integration of Mother Earth within us, we don't see that bird as separate from us. And at some point, we will do anything necessary to save those that we love. It is not a burden because unconditional love doesn't worry about burnout or statistics. Love comes from a place more mysterious. But we know what it feels like when we experience it, when it is born and shared from our own being, and when it is shared by another sentient being. We are there as caretakers, not just for our own family, pets, gardens, but for everything arising from what Mother Earth offers. Our interdependence exists with nature is beyond theoretical because we feel it. When we feel the ash of a burned forest, we feel that suffering. Our trees die and we are sick with grief. A whale cries in agony and we cry. Wildlife disappears and we search for signs of life that species isn't entirely gone. Our earth isn't feeling well. The earth has been farmed and extracted past what is sustainable, so how do we engage? Farmer and author Wendell Berry returned to his state of Kentucky after a successful career in academia in the 1990s. He had many farms, I suppose, to choose from, but he chose a plot of soil that had been overused. His intention was to nurture the land from sickness to health. It required doing away with monoculture farming. He began traditional organic methods. He didn't return to a land that was already healthy, but one that was sick, and he could help rehabilitate back to health. A time to heal and rest. He states, "The farm that my wife and I have is in every way marginal. Every foot of it is either steep, which is most of it, or it floods. So it's land that you can learn a lot from in a hurry because it is so demanding of care." So what is it in our lives that demands our care right now? Where are our moments to be in love with humanity or nature? Humans seem to be in a pattern of seeking out Earth's magic, forgoing areas that are no longer vibrant, often due to human actions. Barry knew this. He chose to seek out land to rehabilitate it, to nurture organic beauty thriving where it hadn't in recent years, and to see the beauty inherent in Earth regardless of what harm had been done to it. How can we nourish and celebrate our own corners of our lives and then do what Wendell Berry did? Seek out a part of Earth that is seemingly ill and nurse it back to health. We need to return to what needs our attention, not necessarily where much attention has already been given. Wendell Berry engaged in transitioning his land, which informed him of how compassionately to engage with Earth. We can love life in all forms, just as Wendell Berry did with the soil on his farm. Love is the greatest gift offered to us as humans, along with other living beings who have the capacity to love. And we naturally protect that which we proclaim to love. Terry Tempest Williams, author of the book Refuge, stated, "I am slowly, painfully discovering that my refuge is not found in my mother, my grandmother, or even the birds of Bear River. My refuge exists in my capacity to love." Love, it's a miraculous thing. I mentioned in a recent Mardi Gras sermon on the day that Barkus was here in New Orleans, that one of a dog's superpowers is unconditional love. But that superpower is also for us. That is our superpower, to love with this gift of life. The sustenance of our own lives is love, in both our moments of darkness and in the moments of increasing light that is upon us now. This spring equinox is when the days become longer than nights in the northern hemisphere. How can we metaphorically expand light into the world at this time of year? As we look onto the sacred waters of the Mississippi River and Lake Pontchartrain and our bayous, when we see a bald eagle or a crane or listen to the sacred stories of Native American storytellers, we can begin to see the miracle of life all around us. What can we do to honor Earth and one another? How do you express your love for the soil, our waters, and the birds to celebrate life and help heal where there is sickness? What rights of nature are we wanting to honor, uplift, and engage in? How does this love manifest in our own lives? Let us no longer wish that someone else will take up the cause. So let us toil our deadened soil. Let us care for the birds. Let us restore fish habitat. As you tell the fish and the birds and the soil and the rivers and all of God's creations how much you love them in all your broken and connected moments with Earth. And remembering what Carolyn McDade said, I feel the tides as they answer the moon, rushing on a far distant sand, winging my song in the wind of my breast, and my love blows all over the land. May it be so, and amen. This is the time where we have our offering, and every Sunday we share 50-50 with a cause that our social justice ministry team in our church very much cares for. And for this Sunday, it is Melba's. And Melba's is a restaurant doing work in the community to bring out compassion and love for neighbors and offering reading and books to people and children in this community that need just their love that Melba's is giving out into the community. The love to children and the need to read, the ability to have access to education that they might not otherwise have. So 50% will be here for the church, and 50% will go out to Melba's. And now Nicholas and the choir will lead us in our offertory chant for the seasons, number 73.
We now extinguish our chalice, that it might glow gently in our hearts. May it light your path as you leave this place. May it guide your way until we are together again. Please join in our closing hymn, number 131. Love will guide us.
So my closing words, my benediction for you is from a Cherokee saying, "When you were born, you cried and the world rejoiced. Live your life so that when you die, the world cries and you rejoice." May it be so, and amen.